Yeah, good morning. In today's class, I'm going to be taking you on how to use Ajax and looking at the page below. Sorry, looking at the page you are seeing on the screen. What I want to achieve with this is to teach you how I was able to fetch the drug that is being administered to each of these particular patients in the database. So let's go to the basic business of this class. The first thing you must really understand is that I'm trying to use both JavaScript. No, I'm trying to use, yeah, both JavaScript and the PHP. So the first thing you must understand is that you could see that I have different buttons in front of each name. So let me show you this particular place where I have the button. Okay, okay, this is the particular button that I just showed you. Can you see view drug, view drug, view drug? Now, the interesting thing about this is that within this button, I actually use on click event attributes to easily pick the patient ID and the admission ID of this particular patient. So as you can see the function show drug chart model. Please concentrate here. Show what? Show drug chart model. So this is just like a normal function. So let me remove the PHP in case so that you not become. Please let me remove the normal PHP. Okay, Control X. Can you see now? Oh, sorry. There is okay. Can you see that is a normal what? Is a normal function. And I use event attribute on click so that by the time particular user click on the view drug button, it what? It invoke this particular function. So the essence of putting PHP inside is because I want to what? I want to tap the patient ID and the admission ID of the patient. So definitely you must understand this that anytime I'm using variable row, PHP is a sign that at the top of this particular button, there should be a place where I select a particular table. So let's see where I selected this particular table so that we can see where I actually tap this what? This patient ID. Can you see where I tap the patient ID? Can you see select blah 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 from what? Admission? Then I join it with what? Patient. So it's at the admission table that I tap the what? The admission ID that I call ID. As you can see here, there is just ordinary ID, A.ID. Exactly. And from the patient, I tap my what? My patient underscore ID. So in case you don't really understand SQL, so it's better you actually watch our video that I released previously on how to fetch data from a table. So now, after I've done this, let me go back to that particular place, show drug chart model. Yeah, can you see the button? Now, the next thing is that this particular function that is being invoked anytime I click on what? View drug. Let's see what is inside it. Control C. I want to search so that you can see this particular function. Can you see the function here? I put it inside my scripts. Can you see function show drug chart model? Why am I putting two parameters? Because looking at the function where I invoke it, I use two what? Parameters that I fetch from the admission table and from the patient table. So that's why accordingly, the first one that I actually dropped there, that I echoed there, is what? Patient ID. And the second one is what? Admission ID. Is that clear? After I've done that, and I said document dot get element by ID, I'm trying to what? Write code on what this function should do. Let's think it as human, normal human. Let's go back to the particular page. Let's see what happened. Anytime I click view drug, definitely this modal came up. Is that clear? So that means I must have the modal what? The modal code. So let's go and look at this particular modal and see how it is being done. So what I'll just do is that, how will I know the modal? This is the ID that I use to identify the modal. So let's see again. You see, this one is the particular modal. Can you see? Let's, because I placed it at the top. Can you see? Sorry. Up, up. Okay, can you see the modal? Drug chart modal. So I know I've taught you on modal. So this is the div. It's just a normal div, like a rectangle. Do you understand? Or like a box. So, and you will notice that within this normal modal, I also put another what? Another div that I save with what? Drug chart content. That is, within this box, there are two things that are there. There are two div. Let me show you again. I have the outer one is the what? The modal, while the inner one is the what? Is the content. The div that what? That will hold the content that I eventually fetch from the DB. So let's go back. So that's just what this one is actually saying. This is the major div that is holding the modal, and this is another div inside it that will hold the what? The content. So now, after that, let's go back to our scripts, and let me continue to explain. Don't forget, show drug chart modal. I said get element by ID. That is the drug. Let the drug chart modal, let it come up. Then after it come up, let it be in form of block. Now, I now use fetch API. Most time, anytime you use fetch, is a function that you can actually use to what? To pick a resources or a resource from what? From the server. Basically, what I'm actually trying to use this to do is more or less like an Ajax, asynchronous. Like, I want to what? I want to the patient ID and the admission ID that I've actually fetched with what? With my JavaScript. I want to pass it now to my what? To my PHP. So that's why I'm using get underscore what? Drug underscore what? Chart dot PHP, and I pass. Can you see the patient ID that is at this top? Abi, this is it, right? I pass it to what? Patient ID. And the admission ID, I pass it to what? To admission ID. And in form of URL now. So now, let's now go to the get drug chart. Can you see that I've picked the patient ID by using variable underscore get? I actually what? Pick it from that what? From that URL that I show you here. And at the same time, the admission ID, I also pick it with what? Variable underscore what? Variable underscore get. Is that clear? Okay. So now the next thing now is that let's try and just pick the call and tell him that I'm in the office, I'm in class, I'm in class. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is that, fine. The major thing is that I fetch the patient ID and the admission ID. So the next thing now is that let us now what? Let us now fetch, in that drug underscore administration where every drug of every patient at any time is being stored, I need to now fetch the particular patient ID and the what? And the admission. Because a particular patient can come to the same hospital several times. So now the next thing is what? And I said select all from what? From drug not selector in this case. I need to just pick the particular column that I need from what? Drug underscore administration. And I stored it at FA. So anytime you see FA, I'm talking about what? Drug underscore what? Administration. Then I join admission with it. So that it will not fetch unnecessary thing, I now use where statement that patient ID, you make sure you are picking the one for this patient ID and for this particular what? Admission. Exactly. That's why I'm saying drug underscore administration dot what? Patient ID equals this variable what? Patient ID. Then what? Drug underscore what? Administration dot what? Admission underscore ID equals what? Variable admission underscore ID. Exactly. At the end of the day, I'm able to echo this. Can you see? I put the column first and I put the corresponding what? Data into each of the columns. So that's why you can see this successfully. That by the time I click on view drug, I can easily see every drug that has been placed for this particular patient. So what I'm going to do now is that I will give you the script. So on your own, try it and get back to me. Thank you.